Hello, I'm Kristin and welcome to my channel From Chronic Fatigue to Chronic Abundance. Welcome to my weekly live Q&A every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. I go live to answer your questions about how to live better while you still have severe chronic fatigue as a symptom, regardless of the cause. Maybe you've been diagnosed with something like ME/CFS or lupus or fibromyalgia. Maybe you have no idea what's going on. Regardless, there are a lot of commonalities in our lives when we're impacted by extremely severe chronic fatigue as a symptom. When our brain fog is so severe and our physical fatigue is so severe that it becomes debilitating, it prevents us from living free lives. My dog has decided he's now hungry for his breakfast, so he's just started eating about 3 feet from me. And I apologize if my mic is picking that up. I'm not sure. It might be, it might not be, but if you hear a lot of crunching noises in the background, that's my Doberman. So the way this works is, instead of just me rambling the whole time about whatever I think might be important to you, this is your opportunity to ask me your questions, share your challenges that you have, and I will give you my take on the answers. Now, the reason I talk about these things is because I have had to recover from severe chronic fatigue as a symptom on 3 different occasions, okay? And when I say I got sick before, I mean I couldn't hold a job, I couldn't plan for the future, I ran very short on hope many times. I had a hard time even just walking freely. I had the post-exertional malaise, the hallmark symptom of crashes after, even sometimes very small amounts of physical exercise. Couldn't read books. You guys understand what those symptoms are like, the severe brain fog and the severe physical fatigue and the way that they impacted my life. And when I say recovered, I mean, I had gotten my life completely back. I was working full-time in an office again. I was working out regularly again. I was going on trips and vacations and having a social life. And then I relapsed, okay? And I was recovering again, and then I relapsed completely again, and then I recovered. And it's been over 4 years since my last recovery, because now I've not only learned how to heal, I've also learned how to sustain my health and avoid crashes and relapses going forward. All right. Now, when I give you my take on what worked for me when I was living that way and what helped me heal, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not licensed in anything. So understand that this is just me sharing with you what has worked for one person. And it is not medical advice of any sort. Now, when I talk about what worked, it's important for me to let you know, if you don't already know this, that I, as one person, needed 3 completely different plans to heal each and every single time. My body needed different blood work, different supplements, different treatments, different everything each time, okay? So I know so many of us are looking for the magic supplement to help us get over our fatigue. We're looking for the magic treatment, the one plan, the one doctor to work with that'll work. Well, I tell you what, I worked with different people. I needed different things at each and every step of my journey, all right? So if I could give you one plan to health, I absolutely would, but that wasn't my reality, and that isn't the reality of the people I know who also healed themselves, all right? It's more of a journey of discovery, of trial and error, of being able to say, okay, my health issues are poorly understood by medicine in general, and I'm going to have to try out a bunch of things under guidance, and that's the way to discover what works for me. Now, I don't recommend going off and just Googling things and trying things willy-nilly. You need to have a plan. You need to be testing things in a logical, documented manner. And I'm always going to highly, highly, highly recommend doing so under the guidance of someone extremely knowledgeable who has helped, lots of other people recover their health from similar health issues that you are experiencing, all right? If you're going to pay someone to build a house, you're probably not going to go hire a first-time home builder. You're probably going to go hire somebody who's built a bunch of other houses. Same should go for your health, right? All right, so go ahead and start typing up your questions, typing up your challenges. What are you struggling with? What do you need help with right now? What is frustrating you right now? What do you want to know about my own healing journey and my health history? How how are you doing today? Get that stuff typed up and popped into the chat box, and then we can start talking about that. Because until I get some questions, I just sit here and ramble on, and it's not very fun for me, and I don't know how exciting it is for you, okay? Let's see. So I covered all of my intro basics. What else can I talk about? Oh, I asked a question in the Facebook group this week. What is your favorite place in the house to have a long rest? You know, when you're pacing yourself, when you have one of those days where you just need more rest than normal, what's your favorite spot? Do you like to do it in your bed? Is it on the couch? Someone said they have a hammock they like to sit in outside the house, which is great. Someone else said the bath if they really need a long rest. Yeah, what's your favorite spot in the house to hang out when you need like a longer than normal rest? You know, this is assuming you have the ability to move around your house from time to time. Some of you may not. Some of you may be completely bedbound and unable to move. And if you like being in your bed, that's awesome. If you wish you could be, well, maybe I don't want to go down that road. But do you have a favorite set of PJs you like to be in when you have like a really heavy rest day? Do you have a favorite pillow? Do you have a favorite anything you like with you when you are in the middle of those heavy rest periods? I'm curious. Let me know. My favorite place always used to be on the couch. The first time I got ill, I had a dog. And my absolute favorite thing in the world was laying down on the couch, having the dog curl up with me, and just having her companionship. You know, I most times, like if I had a little bit of mental clarity, I would usually spend that time online trying to research what the heck was going on with me and to find people who could help me. Because it takes a lot of research to find those things, believe me, but it's absolutely worth the effort to look. You know, sometimes like I've talked about before when I couldn't read, when I really couldn't focus on anything for very long, but I was feeling kind of bored, my go-to was watching really trashy reality television. Because when you're watching reality TV, you don't need to remember who people are for the most part. You don't need to remember what was said 5 minutes ago. It's just constantly like stimulating and somewhat entertaining and just helps you kind of like, you know, pass the time. So that was always my favorite on the couch with trashy TV and my dog at the time. Let's see, the second time I got sick, my favorite place for a long rest. If it was nice outside, I wanted to be outside on the back patio. Not in the sun, because I had a very hard time regulating my body temperature myself, especially the second time I got sick. So I wouldn't want to be in the sun, but if I could be in the shade and, you know, I had like a blanket or something to kind of help me regulate my temperature, I would love to be just like outside, because there's something about just being exposed to that sunlight, getting to watch some birds fly overhead, getting to look at the flowers blowing in the breeze. That was really calming and helped bring a sense of peace to me, even while I was really struggling with the really severe chronic fatigue and struggling with being out of work again. Because, you know, as I'm sure all of you have at least read, maybe you've experienced this, whenever you get really sick and you heal, I mean, that's obviously the best feeling in the world, to get better from something that people tell you you really can't get better from unless you just get lucky. And then when you relapse from that, it is the hardest feeling in the world. Like it's almost as bad as the first time you get ill and realize that, shit, this isn't going to just clear up on its own anytime soon. You know, it's a really, really heavy, hard feeling. Although the first time I relapsed, I will say it was hard, but I also had this sense of like, okay, I hate that I'm here again. This so isn't fair. I don't even know what I did to bring this on, but I've been here before and I've gotten through it. I know how to heal. I know how to get myself back to where I want to be. So I got to work. I started looking for practitioners to help me. I started figuring out, discovering what my body needed by getting lots of blood work done. Trying lots of new supplements and treatments and things, and discovering some things that worked for me and discovering some things that didn't. And, you know, discovering new imbalances in my body that needed to be treated. And I began healing a lot faster the second time because I knew what to do. The first time it took me from when I first started getting ill to when I finally was able to go back to work, which is, when I really feel like I was achieving recovery. It was about, it was about 3.5 years. Okay. The first time from when I started getting ill to when I actually got better, 3.5 years. The second time, it was about 7 months, a lot faster because I knew what to do. I knew how to heal at that point. Now, I've already shared why it's not super helpful for me to talk about the supplements I took and like who I worked with, because I needed different things every single time. And I encourage you to adopt that mindset if you're going to need to discover what you need throughout your healing journey. What really helps me heal, the one thing that absolutely helps me heal each and every single time, and the thing that I should talk about most on here, that I want to share with you guys most on here, is what I call the healing mindset. My mindset was what helped me heal each and every single time. Okay. And I'm not saying that my illness was in my head. It was not. Even if stress contributes to symptoms, stress can exacerbate symptoms. It's absolutely true. There were physical imbalances in my body that needed to be fixed, that needed to be addressed for me to heal. Okay. So even after I adopted the right mindset, it helped me a lot, but it was not enough to make me better. Okay. I still needed to just discover the right people and the right supplements and treatments to actually make me better, fully long-term. Okay. And the reason I got to heal so fast the second time is because I went into it with the right healing mindset already. So I knew what to do. I put like that pedal like all the way down to the floor, like really stepped on the gas in terms of like, all right, I have the right mindset. Now I just need to discover all the things that I need. Let's do this. And it was working. So when it comes to mindset, changing your mindset is not going to completely heal you. It will make your journey easier and faster though. All right. And it makes it less shitty. I almost said it makes it more enjoyable, but I was like, I can't really say that. It makes it less shitty. Okay. And here's why. Your mindset helps create hope when you run low on hope. Okay. It keeps you more motivated by having the right mindset, by focusing on the right things. It also helps give you a little more energy because it turns out that the wrong mindset actually robs us of energy. Our emotions require a lot of energy to produce. And especially those heavy emotions like frustration and focusing on how unfair this is and focusing on doctors who say we'll never get better, focusing on our anger at doctors who tell us it's all in our head. Those heavy emotions are robbing us of our energy. Now, it's okay to feel these emotions, all right? I'm not a positive thinking person. I will never tell you to always think positive. That's not what I do. I want you to feel your anger and your sadness and your frustration and all those things. However, I want you to feel them and listen to them to get the message that they're telling you. And then choose to free yourself from that energy drain, right? It's about choosing to focus on what is going to help you heal. Because like you can feel angry all day, every day of your life if you want to, but it's going to make your healing journey harder and longer. And you do have a certain amount of choice over that. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not a willpower issue. It's a habits issue. It's a practice issue. We have to practice at spending more time in those lighter emotions that give us energy, right? Feeling hopeful, feeling grateful, feeling optimistic, feeling like this isn't fair to me, but I accept that this is the situation I'm in. Those are energy-giving feelings and emotions, all right? And the more time we can spend in those energy-giving emotions, the more energy we'll have to pour into discovering our own healing journey, okay? The other way that mindset helps is mindset shapes our behaviors. The way we think and what we think shapes what we do and how we show up in the world. So once I changed my mindset, that was when I stopped the the revolving door of doctors. All right. When I first got ill, I did what pretty much everyone does. And I just started seeing lots of specialists, and they did all the blood work on me and found nothing wrong and told me it was all in my head. Right. Especially since I was like young, like in my mid-20s and a high performer and all that. They're like, oh, you look fine. You'll be fine. It's, even now, just thinking about it, it's so frustrating because I know how many of you are still experiencing that. But once I got my mindset in order, that's when I was like, oh, I know I should be able to rely on the doctors to heal me. But the truth is, I can't. If I were to leave my health in the hands of the doctors, I probably won't ever get better. And nothing in my life told me that there was a solution to this. There was just the mindset and the belief that I am going to figure this out, because it's not, this is no life here. Listening to these other doctors and continuing to see them. So my mindset helped me realize that I needed to take full accountability and responsibility for my health. I couldn't heal myself, but it was my responsibility to make sure that I healed, right? And the only way I could do that was by finding the right people to guide me on my healing journey. So that became my full focus, was finding the right people. And, like I shared, the first time I got sick, it took me years. It took me a couple of years to find the right person to help me heal. And even then, it took multiple people at different stages and steps of my healing journey to actually get me back to healthy. All right. And I'm sharing all of this to really push the importance of the right mindset. Okay. So it frees up some of our energy by helping us live in lighter emotions more often. It helps us heal faster because it shapes our behaviors. It shapes how we show up with doctors. It shapes how we approach our healing journey. And it's just absolutely crucial to have the right mindset, because you will heal faster with it. Okay. So if you guys have any questions about mindset, what that looks like, you can ask any question. Nothing too big or too small or too personal or too weird or too anything. If you want to challenge anything I've just said, you don't really buy what I said, if you have issues with what I've said, I'm here to talk about that too. I can take some criticism, and I can take people with different opinions and ideas. If you want to have a conversation about that, really anything goes. It's very hard to offend me. If I don't want to answer something, I'll just tell you that's too personal or whatever, but that hasn't happened yet. So let's see. Some of the things we've talked about on this channel to help give you guys ideas for questions. We've spent a lot of time talking about diet. And I have, I would say I have an unconventional opinion and view on diets for people who are living with severe chronic fatigue as a symptom, especially if you don't have a diagnosis or you have something that is just a name for a collection of symptoms. Like if you been diagnosed with lupus or ME/CFS, that's just a name for a collection of symptoms. It's not pointing to any specific thing wrong in the body. My view on diet for those types of illnesses is not something I've really seen anywhere else before. We talk about how to process grief. We've talked about how to process anger. We've talked about what to do when your boyfriend has been super supportive of you, and then you go see a doctor, and that doctor has planted a seed of doubt in his mind. How do you cope with that and move forward? What do you do when your family and friends don't believe you and don't support you? What do you do when you're bored? How do you keep yourself entertained when you're bored and you can't read and you can't really do anything that you enjoy doing? What do you want to do? We've talked about the importance of resting and pacing. So, most of you have probably heard of pacing at some point, which is keeping your energy expenditure within your energy envelope, okay? And pacing is all about avoiding crashes. Now, every time we crash, we're actually setting ourselves back in our healing journey, because when we've crashed, we've gone super negative with our energy levels, and we've got to recover those energy levels just to get back to where we were before. So we're actually moving ourselves backwards a couple steps every time it happens. So pacing is all about just avoiding energy crashes, keeping your energy expenditure so low, whatever that means for you. It's very personal. It changes a lot day to day, but keeping your energy expenditure so low that you avoid crashing as much as possible. Hi, Alex. Ooh, okay, Alex, you hit me with a really big, really tough question. So yeah, let's go into this. And this is something I have a lot of personal experience with, okay? Not saying I'm an expert on it, but I have a lot of experience, so I have some opinions around this. Good question. Oh, narcissists are so hard. They are so hard. So is it possible to heal when you are in the presence of narcissists and you can't leave the narcissists? I think it is possible to heal in most situations. However, some situations make it a lot harder and make it take a lot longer for you to heal. And if you're in the presence of a narcissist and your dynamic is such that you're not their chosen person, like the way narcissists function is, they typically have people in their lives who do nothing wrong and they're perfect and they receive all of their love and affection and attention and positive everything. And then they have people in their lives who receive all of their criticism and are everything that's wrong with the world. And then there are other people, who experience a mix of that dynamic as well. But narcissists are very hot and cold in that way. It's very hard to have a neutral relationship when you're close to a narcissist, in my experience. So, we don't normally, if we're in that like golden child relationship with the narcissist, we don't normally notice them as narcissists because it's such a positive experience for us to have a relationship with them. So Alex, if you're asking about, is it possible to heal when you're in the presence of a narcissist? I'm going to assume that you're on the negative side of that relationship with the narcissist around you. And that was me my entire life growing up, okay? And if you haven't looked into this yet, or you or Alex or anyone else watching, and you have lived with a narcissist for part or all of your life, I highly recommend doing some reading about this, because people who have been heavily influenced by narcissists tend to have a lot of similarities in their lives, a lot of similar personality traits that they develop as a result of having to live with a narcissist. They have a lot of common experiences, and there's just a lot of understanding you can gain about yourself and the narcissist in your life by reading about the commonalities in those relationship dynamics. So yeah, highly recommend looking into that a little bit more. If you are living with a narcissist and you have that negative dynamic with them, that negative dynamic is emotionally draining. It is inherently emotionally draining. And yes, I know there are people out there who say, well, it just means you need to work on yourself. It means you need to work on your dynamic with them, and you need to stop letting them affect you so badly. And, there's a lot of responsibility people place on you in relationship to a narcissist to say like, well, you just need to do these things differently, and then your relationship with the narcissist won't drain you so much. But it's just one of the qualities of a narcissistic dynamic that they are often very, very damaging to the person who's on that negative receiving end of that. And when you are already so fatigued and already physically disabled from being able to live the life you want to live, that narcissistic relationship is an anchor. Again, this is all my opinion, just my personal experience from the limited number of things I've read and educated myself on about the narcissistic dynamic. When I was Okay, let me read what Alex said. The thing is the golden child becomes a scapegoat if he is not what the narcissist wants them to be. Being sick equals not being what the narcissist wants you to be. And you are never going to get the understanding that you are human and that there's nothing like inherently invaluable about you as a person because you got ill. The narcissist valued you for being what they wanted you to be, and you can't be that, so they can't value you. And that is an extremely damaging message to be receiving when you're already in such a compromised position. Oh, I'm really feeling for you, Alex, because it's not fair to you, and it is an extra immense burden to be faced with that kind of animosity and blame. It like I said before, it literally is just going to be an additional anchor for you. And I hope that doesn't bring up a sense of despair. I hope it feels like an honest acknowledgement of the reality of the situation, okay? I think it's very important to acknowledge sometimes how bad things really are. I don't think that's being pessimistic. I think it's being honest. And once we're honest about how bad things are sometimes, that can actually give us the motivation and the creativity and the insight to start looking for solutions, because once we acknowledge how bad things are, it can help us tap into deeper reserves to overcome the challenge at hand. Because like as humans, we tend to minimize problems because we don't want to deal with them. And it's when we stop minimizing and we're honest about how big they are that we can find that energy and that motivation we need to actually do something about it. So even when I was super ill, the first time I was in like my mid to late 20s, I had always been really big about saving a lot of money. So I had a lot of savings. I had a business that was bringing in a small amount of money every month, not enough for me to live on, but it helped slow the rate at which I was chewing into my savings. Through all that, like I could have moved back into my parents and saved a lot of money. I could have maybe lived off of the meager income I had from my business at the time. But my mother is a narcissist, and I knew that living with her was going to make me worse. And I didn't allow that to be an option because I prioritized my health and my healing above everything else in my life. And it sounds like that isn't an option for you right now, Alex, or at least you haven't found a way to make that an option for you. But you can't, the thing about narcissists is there is no rational conversation with them. You can't sit down and talk with them about how you're feeling and expect anything to change. They can't admit their own faults. They can't see their own faults. We really can't expect the narcissist to change anything about themselves or how they are negatively impacting us, or how their behaviors are towards us. We can't do anything about that. We can do a little bit of personal development work to try to work on ourselves and try to minimize the impact that they have on us. But I would say it's an unrealistic expectation to think that it's something you can totally overcome yourself emotionally in a short period of time while you also have these health issues. Having been through both, it was something I knew I couldn't do. I could not be that ill and cope with a narcissistic mother at the same time and expect anything good to happen for myself. Being completely honest and just straight and real. I would enlist the help of a professional, and not just a normal therapist, because normal therapists just help you work on you. I would almost work with someone who specializes in confronting narcissists in our lives, someone who can coach you through how to, at the very least, get her off your back. I'm assuming it's a her. Maybe that's the wrong thing for me to do. Oh no, you did say, Yeah, I'm sorry, you didn't say if the narcissist in your life is a man or a woman. I shouldn't have assumed that. Alex says it is not. My dad uses my cat and squirrel as leverage. He is crazy. He will try and destroy me if I leave before healing. So it's kind of okay. So you've talked about your father being the narcissist. It sounds like your mom's a little bit of a narcissist, but your dad is the worst. So the thing about narcissists is they are really, really good. Well, what do I want to say about this? This is a very delicate topic and a very delicate conversation. So maybe I want to step back for a second and think a little more before I speak. So what I had faced when I was severely ill is the lesser of two evils. It wasn't good for me financially or mentally and emotionally to be depleting my savings every month without any hope of getting better. And yet that reality was still a lot less terrible than cohabitating with my mother. So Alex, I share that to acknowledge that you probably don't have any great options ahead of you. Okay. Obviously continuing with the relationship the way it is isn't good for you. Period. It isn't good for you. It is an anchor and it's going to make it harder for you to heal in all likelihood because of the massive emotional drain narcissists have. So, if you're able to find someone to work with who could help you confront your narcissist, like someone who can help you continue to cohabitate with them, but help to change the dynamic, like you're not going to stop them from being a narcissist, and you're not going to stop this from being hard for you, but you may be able to find someone who can help you make cohabitation less awful for you. I would look into that as an option. I don't know where to find that person. But I would, that's what I would personally do. And I would start looking for that person to help guide me on this situation and how to make the dynamic less shitty for me if I was where you are. Another option, like it would obviously be another, like, it would also, well, back to the other thing. It's obviously going to be hard to find, someone to work with you. And it's also going to be very hard to confront the narcissist and change that dynamic. It's going to be very painful to change the dynamic in all likelihood, but could be a really helpful thing for you to do. Or, maybe you do find a way to leave. Maybe you find another friend or family member to stay with. And obviously that's going to be a very hard situation because your father, it sounds like, is going to make your life a living hell if you try to move out. But like we've acknowledged, all of these situations suck in different ways. What I invite you to do is to try to picture yourself, like if you just stay with the way things are, where are you going to be in a year? If you try to find someone who helps you change the dynamic with the narcissist and helps you cohabitate with them, where could you be in a year? Health-wise, emotional-wise, how do you feel-wise? If you find somewhere else to live and you're going to have a really, really rocky time with your dad for a certain period of time, but a year from today, where could you be mentally, physically, emotionally? I was talking about how much we want to pace, we want to avoid crashes. Sometimes there are things in our life that are worth crashing for. And my example of that was when I first got ill, I was in a toxic relationship. This guy was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He would be the absolute nicest person in the whole world, 95% of the time. But then every now and then he would just get angry. He would have anger issues and he would become verbally abusive and sometimes physically abusive to me. And it took me a long time to wake up to the fact that I needed to just leave the relationship and I needed to stop living with him. And it was extremely hard to do that when I was so ill. I had no job. I had no future or prospects for a job. I had no confidence whatsoever that I was ever going to be able to heal myself and work again. And yet I chose to leave. And it was very hard physically to move. I moved across multiple states, right? But I found a friend who let me live with them. And I made that very, very difficult choice to leave a financially more secure situation to move into a financially less secure situation, because emotionally it freed me immensely. And there was never a second I regretted that decision, because a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders when I left that abusive relationship and stopped living with an abuser. Even though it was financially hard, it was physically hard. I definitely crashed, needed a lot of time to recover from that. You know, a year later, a year in my future was night and day. Okay. Alex, I'm just afraid he will try to steal my cat away from me or hurt the squirrel I rescued last year who comes and visits every day. If you're really worried about your father abusing animals, because hurting a squirrel is literal animal abuse and is illegal, that's a huge problem that makes me concerned about other things that could be happening in the home. Alex, you know, physical abuse is a real problem and is something that you can do something about that. If that's happening to you, you know, I'm not asking you to like admit that publicly. You know, I'm not saying it's definitely happening, but anyone who's afraid that someone they know would physically harm animals is usually someone who is physically harming humans. And that makes me really concerned for you. And I encourage you to tell somebody you know in your life, to maybe seek legal help, to no longer tolerate that in your life if that's what's going on. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, great. Okay, I'm not fully sure with what you're trying to say here, Alex, saying he has. So this is a hard conversation for me because, like I've said, I'm not a therapist. I'm not someone who's trained in how to, you know, have a therapeutic conversation about this. The only thing I feel like I can do is to highly encourage you to talk to someone in your family about this, if this is what I think you're saying. So, oh man, this is a tough conversation to have, Alex, and I hope I'm doing right by you. He's just messing psychologically. He has never attacked me. Okay. So he's verbally abusive. He's not physically abusive. You know, being verbally abusive is still a terrible, terrible thing to do to somebody, but I'm glad to hear he's not being physically abusive. So yeah, I mean, that's the narcissist's main tool is psychological verbal abuse. All right. So if you're worried about the animals in your life, you know, before you ever announce anything to your parents, before you let them have any idea that you're making plans to go anywhere, if you do, I would tell the person that you would be moving into, and I would let them know that the moment your parents find out that you would be leaving is the moment you need to be leaving the house. And that person needs to be there with you when that happens, so that, you know, normally narcissists don't go on the attack when there are witnesses present. They're very, very aware of people's perceptions of them. which is why they feel this need to look and be so perfect, and why they're so hard on people who aren't the image of perfection that they expect. So I would have all of that happen at the same moment with, a witness there, the person you're going to be moving in with there with you, and have them prepared to like take your cat with you. It doesn't sound like you can take the squirrel with you. It sounds like a wild squirrel. Okay. So, I just need to say again, like, this is how I would plan these things out for myself. I'm not an expert in these things, but knowing my own experiences with a narcissist, I would not allow myself to be alone when I let them know that I'm leaving. And I also would make that the same moment I am moving out. Like, maybe if you need an hour or two to pack up, I would have your witness there with you while you're packing up, because it is going to put the narcissist on good behavior. And I'm sure you'll have consequences down the road, but this is the kind of thing where you need to decide, is it worth being strong enough to endure these terrible things for a short period of time so that you can achieve longer term freedom? There's a lot of questions you need to ask yourself. There's a lot of decisions you need to make. I'm sure there's a lot of things you need to figure out, logistically, emotionally, financially, before you make any decisions. But I hope to be giving you new ideas and options, and maybe giving you a greater sense of confidence in not tolerating things that aren't going to help you heal, and being able to you still have choice. You still have the power to choose what's good for you emotionally, physically, health-wise, even if it's hard. And even if there's a big mountain to climb and to get to the other side, it can still be worth doing that. And I take this very, very seriously, because I know how bad my own experiences have been in my life. Oh, Alex. Okay. So he has hurt your mom, but she would defend him before herself and her kid. Yep. I understand that relationship as well. Kind of, my parents' relationship wasn't that one, but yeah, I can understand that. So in the past, that's happened. She prefers money and the feelings of importance and financial security. Alex, I think it's really wonderful you have that level of self-awareness about your mother and about your father. It sounds like you've been able to kind of like rationally, as an adult, view them a little objectively here, to separate what's happening from who you are. That's one of the things that narcissists do. They're great at sucking people in, and people start to feel like everything is their fault. They're what's wrong. And it sounds like you've developed a healthy distance from your parents' behavior and yourself, because you have this understanding of what motivates them. And it's not because there's anything wrong with you. It's because they have these unreasonable expectations, and they value things other than your health and safety, it sounds like, which is a really hard thing to say, but that's what I'm hearing. Alex, it's, if you have a mother who values money and your father over you, and you have a father who can't support you and be there for you when you're ill, it doesn't sound like a good place to heal. That's my view. And, maybe you do have it in you to continue to cohabitate and overcome this dynamic while overcoming your health issues. I don't want to like undermine you and say that you don't. Maybe you do. Like, it's up to you. Like, I think deep down, what you need to do for your well-being and for your health. And I've shared my experiences and how what decisions I made and why. They don't have to be your decisions. You can make different decisions than what I did, but I really encourage you to really think about what is best for you. Okay. Don't think about the short-term hardship this is going to take. Think about the rest of your life, because that's what's at stake here. When you have severe, debilitating health issues like this, and you're stuck in an abusive dynamic in a home, that's interfering with your ability to heal, the rest of your life is what is at stake. You need to approach it from that point of view, and you need to figure out what's best for you to move forward. And I know you can. You can absolutely do this, and you can find the bravery to do what it takes, whether that's confronting them, whether that's leaving, whether that's some other alternative that you discover. You can. You do have this choice. Yeah, Alex, yeah. So that was, like I said, a really big, really deep question there, Alex. And I'm really grateful that you brought that up. It's not always easy to, admit that we're stuck in a really tough, difficult dynamic like that. And I appreciate you, approaching this as a conversation between the two of us, and sharing as much information as you did, because, when you share information, it does help me give better feedback to you, because it gives me a greater understanding of what your situation is. And I acknowledge that it's not always easy to do that in a semi-public format like this. So I'm sure there are other people who are watching this right now, or who are going to watch this later, who are going to resonate with your situation and are going to appreciate that you stepped up to have this conversation here. So awesome. Oh man. So where does the conversation go after that? I don't know. But, Alex, in the future, like, as you start thinking through this, like, I'm sure we'd love to hear about what you decide, how things go, how you're keeping yourself safe. Yeah, the fear of financial security, the doctors have not helped a lot. Understand that. You would feel so guilty if you hurt your squirrel. I do know it's best to leave for a while. Okay, so that's what you need. And once you know that and you make that decision, you make the commitment to make that happen, then it's just a matter of details. Not simple details, not easy details, but they're details at that point. Are you more concerned about your squirrel than you are about yourself? I see a parallel here, where you said your mother would defend your father before herself. And I'm hearing you mention the squirrel a couple times. And I would hate to think that your concern for a squirrel overshadows your concern for yourself. Okay? I'm not saying it is, but I want to bring that to general awareness so you can ask yourself, is that going on here? Do you need to readjust something, or is it just an additional concern? Because if it's just an additional concern, that makes you a compassionate, thoughtful, caring human being. Okay. So it's up for you to ask yourself, is this overshadowing, or is this just an additional concern? Because I really like this little squirrel. I care about this thing. And, when our lives are made smaller, when our lives are contracted by severe health issues, those little things we have become our big things. So I totally understand that. And I'm not telling you to stop caring about the squirrel. I just want to make sure that your priorities are in the place they should be, which is you first, because you can't help that squirrel if you aren't well. You know what I mean? It's good. He won't hurt you physically. That's really, really good to hear. So financial security. I mean, that's, I got a question about that on one of my videos in the past week. I talk about finding really great practitioners to work with. And this person was like, well, what good is finding a good practitioner if you don't have the money to pay for it? And the money problem is a hard one for most people. And there are a lot of different ways people solve that problem. For me, it was, I had savings because I like to save money. Like, none of that money came from anybody or anywhere in my life except my income that I put in a bank and didn't spend. And then also the business I built for myself right before I got ill, not knowing I was going to get ill, was a little bit of income every month that helped. the most financial assistance I got from my family was I got a loan. I got a $4,000 loan after about 3 years of being severely ill. And then my family had me pay them back with interest. They actually charged me interest on the $4,000 loan when I didn't have a job, which I'm still freaking salty about, because they're the kind of people who are like, oh, we love you, Kristin. We'd do anything for you. Just ask. We'll do anything for you. And it's like, they'll do anything as long as they can make interest on it. It's a little like, it did help. It did help. But, it kind of taught me how hard I can lean on them. Whatever. That's my issue. That's not a you guys issue. But, the other ways people deal with this, and people have to find ways to make money online from home, when they just have a few hours here or there where they feel physically well enough. People have started businesses selling art or making jewelry, or things that are just very physically not demanding, don't take a lot of thought power, and have been able to draw an income that way. Obviously, the more severely disabled people aren't able to do that. So I don't know if that's an option for you or not, to start looking into things like that. So people start blogging or building websites or getting into SEO. I personally had an app business that once I had it built, it took almost no time to keep going. So it was really great revenue for me to have an app out there, because I barely had to work to keep that income coming in. It wasn't time for dollars anymore. Other people have taken out loans to get by, and that's a really difficult thing to do. But for some people, it's worth it, because if you can take out a loan and you can get well, and you have a practitioner who's helping you, and things are going in the right direction, it's not going to be fun to have these big loans behind you when you get well. But if you can get back to work, and you can start paying those loans off, you can get into a better situation over time, right? Other people find financial aid. They find financial support through the government. Like, if you live in the US, like, there could be federal aid you could get. There could be state aid, like local aid. You'd have to do some digging to understand your options in that area, but they are out there. There are grants and donations, and there's always other family members maybe you can reach out to. People do GoFundMes to leverage their network to help support them financially. There's a lot of different ways to solve that money problem. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's simple. I'm not saying it's going to happen right away. But I share these things to help give you ideas, and to encourage you to explore all of your options, and to not limit yourself from any of them. Oh, thanks, Alex. Yeah, I mean, maybe I did deserve better parents, but they were who they were. And as an adult, it's on me to make my life what I want it to be, regardless of who my parents were and what that did to me emotionally. So, before I even knew what the word was, I was always super big on personal development, on becoming the person I wanted to be, on educating myself about things, on leaving behind the bullshit that accumulated when I lived at home as a child. So it is what it is. I can't change it. I can just accept it and choose better, and do the work of becoming better and being better. And my life is phenomenal. It's nothing like I ever thought my life would be, even after going through so many rounds of severe health issues. In a way, I'm like the black sheep in my family. I'm very unlike the rest of my family, and they really don't understand me or my life for the most part. And I've just learned to accept that they're never going to, and that's okay. It doesn't stop me from doing what I do and from going after more of what I want, which, for a long time was focused on getting my health back. And then it was focused on getting my health back and not losing it again. And after accomplishing those things, finally I've been able to start moving my sights onto bigger and better things, like starting another business, which I'm doing, which is very exciting. So it's just all about stages, we all want everything in our lives and we all want it right now. But, the truth is we can't have everything we want. We just can't have it all right now. We've got to do things in stages. And, for me and for most of you here, the stage you're in right now is first to get your health back. Once you have your health back and you're pretty confident that you can keep your health, then you're able to start building on that and going after the career that you want and the relationships and partnerships and friendships that you want and, building up from there. It's not going to be easy, but the hard work is worth it. Completely worth it. Okay. All right. So we're hitting up almost on 2 o'clock. I am in back-to-back meetings today, so I am going to have to jump. Alex, it's such a great conversation. I really appreciate you being here today and just being so open with us. My heart really goes out to you for the situation you're in. Like I said earlier, you have a lot of crappy decisions ahead of you, but you know what you need to do for yourself, for your healing journey. And, I think you will figure it out with commitment and dedication to yourself. Possibilities will start to open up. You'll start to see things differently than you did before. All right. So sending you so much love and health, Alex, and also to everybody else here, sending you all my love and health. I will see you guys next week, same time, same place. You can actually go to my channel right now and sign up for a reminder about next week's video so you don't miss it. And I'm going to sign off. All right. Take care, guys. Bye. Bye, Alex.